So I want to tell you guys about a traffic stop I was on the other day, and it's, in my opinion, a perfect example of how perception and reality of our field gets so skewed that it creates a very negative opinion of law enforcement. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and for any new viewers, just welcome. Hi there. If you are new here, I'm Mikey Mo. I've been a police officer in patrol for the past 14 years. I'm also a field training officer, so I train new recruits as they hit the road. And on this channel, I try to explain and break down some of the common myths and misconceptions of law enforcement and the job in general and police. Now, I also have a series where I take you on ride-along so you can see firsthand some of the real life day-to-day things we do. So feel free to check some of those videos out if you're interested to see something like that. I'll link them up here in the corner. You can also find me on Instagram where I post content in between the full YouTube videos like this, so I'd love to see all of you there too. Anyway, let's get into this video. So, like I mentioned before, there are a lot of things that people see that are nothing of what they appear to be, and based on this alone, they form a hard opinion. Unfortunately, this just fuels more negativity as it's shared with other people who also see it only for what is seen on the surface. The problem that I'm seeing more and more is that once that surface perception is made, it becomes fact to them, and nobody wants to take the time to listen to the actual details, which would completely explain the greater majority of these situations that we're seeing. Case in point, an officer made a traffic stop just the other day on a car that completely blew a stop sign. So you have a 100% legitimate traffic stop to begin with. It had 4 occupants in it, 2 white females in the front and 2 black males in the back. Upon making the stop, the officer observed a lot of motion and movement from the 2 occupants in the back seat, and even as he walked up to the car, he saw them reaching into a backpack. He immediately called for additional units and was very clear over the radio that there was a lot of movement in the car. Once I got on scene and another officer, we watched the 2 kids in the back seat while the main officer handled the general portion of the traffic stop, getting the driver's information, registration, all that sort of stuff, etc. Now, based on our training and experience, that kind of movement is oftentimes a result of someone either hiding something that they don't want to be caught with.
Nice.
Brian, what are you doing?
Yeah, geez, Stewie. Scared the crap out of me.
What you got there?
Or retrieving something that could potentially be dangerous, like a weapon. Now, to my knowledge, there are no official laws or rules that says you have to act a certain way when stopped, but based on common sense alone, there are a few things you probably shouldn't do. I mean, Chris Rock himself made a whole comedy skit about how to act while being pulled over by the police.
The Chris Rock Show proudly presents this educational video.
So in my opinion, at least, you shouldn't be digging around in bags and making a lot of movements in a situation like that. Anyway, a standard procedure for something like this would be to ask the occupants in that area to step out of the vehicle and either stand with another officer on scene, or in this case, we asked them to just go ahead and sit down on the curb that was right next to the car, but it was out of arm's reach of the bags that were in the back seat. Now, in this particular situation, these people had just come from the beach and they had 2 other carloads of friends who were following them. Now, when they pulled up and they saw their friends stop, they pulled over to the side of the road and everybody decided to get out of the car and walk up to see what was going on. This group consisted of younger black males as well, and upon walking up and seeing their friends sitting on the curb, they began to antagonize us and question us as why their friends were sitting on the curb, yet the 2 white girls were still in the car. Now, in this situation, just as I explained, we had a 100% legitimate reason for asking those 2 young men to sit on the curb away from the bags. Meanwhile, the driver and passenger, who were both displaying their hands and we could see them safely, they also had no bags in the front seat and they weren't moving towards anything. It made it to where there was no concern, or at least I will say very little concern, that there was any danger or potential weapons near them. Therefore, there was no real reason to ask them to step out of the car.
I need you to step out of the car, sir.
Now, the friends who pulled up, of course, they began filming us with their cell phone, which is completely fine, and given the climate, I totally understand. But what was difficult and frustrating was their immediate distaste for the police and the things that they were saying to us based on what they observed, with having absolutely no knowledge as to why we did what we did. Now, this becomes their fact, okay? That the police were being unfair to the black kids and not the white ones. A detailed explanation would be seen as an excuse because they had already made this up in their minds. Trust me, I tried. This mentality, unfortunately, has gotten us to where we are today with the perception of the police. Not to mention the media, which is probably an entire other video, but some of the stuff I've seen recently is just sickening. Also, with that being said, some of the things we're doing is not right either. Now, I'm sure somebody watching this video is gonna have the opinion of, oh, well, you didn't really need to do that. They probably didn't have anything. But that puts us into a slippery slope of weighing our own personal safety and well-being against taking a chance and hoping that there's nothing bad or nefarious going on. Now, this is gonna vary with every officer out there. You're gonna have your officers who are hyper vigilant and take absolutely no chances, all the way to the ones that are so lackadaisical that ultimately they're going to get hurt because they don't see obvious warning signs. This brings us to one of the issues with this job in general and the public perception, because you're talking about human beings who all have different takes on these things. And the untrained public is going to see certain actions as just being overbearing and asserting authority, when in reality, the idea is for us to just be as safe as possible. I truly believe one of the major issues with the general public is they really have no idea how many dangers are involved in this job on a regular day-to-day basis, just doing daily routine things, even like traffic stops. And yes, here comes the comment, well, you know what you signed up for. Yes, of course, we all know there's an inherent danger in being a police officer, but nowhere does it say you have to take unnecessary risks and put yourself in a position of disadvantage just because we chose to do this job. The greater majority of our training is all about how to do things as safely as possible. There's no other malicious intent, regardless of what people might think it looks like. I always ask the question, what would you do? Put yourself in our shoes. Would you blindly put your safety and possibly life in the hands of, well, it's probably okay? I mean, if that's what you want to do, cool, I guess. Listen, we live by 3 simple rules at work. Don't go hungry, don't get wet, and go home safe. There's no sinister plan to get people or hurt people. We just want to come to work and do our part the best and safest way possible. It may not always look pretty, but at the end of the day, that is our only goal. All right, everyone. This is where I'm going to end this video. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. If there's a specific topic you'd like to see a video about, then leave them in the comments or email them to me. All the links for that are in the show notes below. If you found this video interesting or helpful in any way, slap a like on it so more people can hopefully get to see it. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already for more content when it comes out. Tap that little bell. All right, until the next time, everyone, take really good care of yourselves and stay safe out there.